The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB-FM. Thank you for listening. Hi, 91, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. Oh, yes. Brand new episode of Hampton Rose Voices. You hear KHILO's voice in Friday afternoon or Sunday afternoon. Then you already know what time it is. Yes, brand new episode. It is entitled Blackface. And by that, we'll be speaking about how African Americans are portrayed in the media. You know, the stereotypes, whether they're portrayed positively, whether they're portrayed negatively. What we can do, of course, we're going to bring solutions. So what we can do to either dispel those stereotypes and to discontinue them or continue the positive images that we are seeing on our TVs or seeing in print media or hearing or what have you. Okay, so as always, we have special guest experts with us on today. And, yes, they are both ladies. Yes, ladies in the house. Dr. Kathy M. Jackson. She is an associate professor in the Mass Comm and Journalism departments of Norfolk State University. Hello there, Dr. Jackson.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. And I also have Iisha Scott. Yes, name sounds familiar, huh? She is with WVEC. She's a meteorologist. Hello there.
Hello.
Yes, and I also like to add that she's the president of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals. All right, so we have some media professionals themselves who are going to be in on this particular topic. But before we get started, let's know a little bit more about our special guest experts. We'll start with Dr. Kathy. Can I call you Dr. Kathy?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about your career in media and so forth and so on, please.
I started out as a print journalist in Flint, Michigan in 1981, and I worked there for 7 years, and then I went to become a reporter at the Tampa Tribune in Tampa, Florida. And after that, I went into the academy. My first job was teaching at Johnson C. Smith University. I stayed there 5 years, and then I went to the University of Michigan, where I obtained my PhD in media history studies.
Cool beans. And then now you're here at Norfolk State. Yes, ma'am. Iisha Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised here in Norfolk, Virginia, so I'm a hometown girl. Have always wanted to be a meteorologist since I was 7.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a dream come true. I started out at NBC 12 in Richmond, Virginia. I was working behind the scenes, and then I started filling in on traffic there. And then I got my first real weather job, if you will, in Wilmington, North Carolina, at the NBC affiliate there.
Okay.
And then I've been home now for 3.5 years at WVEC.
Cool beans. Cool beans. I love to see dreams come true. Alrighty, so Iisha Scott is here, Dr. Kathy is here, and they're going to be talking about how African Americans are portrayed in the media. Of course, we have you here. It's called Hampton Rose Voices for a reason, like I say, every single week. So won't you call in and make your voice heard? Put your 2 cents in, 757-823-9110, 823-9110. And I have a question for you. In your opinion, what is wrong with the programming or imaging in media that you are seeing in regards to African Americans? I want to know. Or even music, okay? Media is very broad. So if you're seeing it on the internet, on television, hearing it on the radio, tell me what you think is wrong. Is there anything wrong? Call in. Let me know your opinion. 757-823-9110. We're going to take a break. And when we return, we're hopping right into the conversation and hopefully talking to you. 823-9110. It's Hampton Rose Voices on Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Hampton Rose Voices, very brand new episode here entitled Blackface. We're talking about how African Americans are portrayed in the media. All right, so we're seeing music videos. Child, don't get me started on those. Okay, we see TV programming. We see advertisements like H&M, like the Dove advertisements that kind of stirred some controversy. You know how African Americans are portrayed out here in media. Exactly. So whether it's positive or negative, we're getting down to the bottom of it and also offering solutions. That's what Hampton Rose Voices is all about. And we want to hear from you. 757-823-9110 about your opinions. I want you to put your 2 cents in. And I threw out a question for you. I want to know, in your opinion, what is wrong with the programming that you are seeing or hearing these days in regards to African Americans? Okay, so we do have a phone call. Oh, but before we get to that, I have to, mention my special guest experts for today. I have Iisha Scott. She is a meteorologist at WVEC and president of the Black Media Professionals of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals. And also Dr. Kathy M. Jackson. She is an associate professor in the Mass Comm and Journalism department here at the Norfolk State University. Okay, so let's get to the phone lines. Hi, 921, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Anthony.
Hey, Anthony. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you today?
I'm doing well. So talk to me. What's your question, comment, or concern?
Well, you know, as looking at the media scenario, I was alarmed not too long ago that this was the media that is portrayed in America, how blacks are or whatever the case may be, that is global. Mm. That means that when you go to another country and you think you're going to escape this whole little thing here, it's over there too, because it's now global. They're getting the same portrayal that we're getting on this TV screen over here. They're getting it all over the world. So whenever you encounter somebody from a different race, you're most likely to get the same interpretation of who you are from them.
So tell me, how do you feel about the portrayals and depictions of African Americans in the media today?
You know what? I look at that screen every day, and all I see is white people doing things. I very seldom see black people doing anything. And another thing, one more thing I want to point out on that whole issue right there is I don't see nobody promoting black businesses. You know, no one even mentions it, not even across the radios. No one even opened their mouth. So it needs to be done. You know, if you're gonna counteract these things, you got to counteract them in that way.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in and sharing with us.
All righty. Thank you very much.
All right, Anthony. Bye-bye. So, ladies, let me just throw out some talking points, and then we will, get into the conversation. So, according to a 2011 study by Media Representations and Impact on the Lives of Black Men and Boys, it was actually conducted by the Opportunity Agenda. Negative mass media portrayals were strongly linked with lower life expectations among Black men. So, that is a study that they did. Also, in 1968, the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders reviewed coverage of the 1967 riots, and they faulted many newspapers for their, quote, exaggeration of both mood and event and failing to report adequately on the causes and consequences of civil disorders and on the underlying problems of race relations, end quote. That's very interesting. And then the report went on to say, quote, they have not communicated to the majority of their audience, which is white, a sense of the degradation, misery, and hopelessness of life in the ghetto, end quote. And that is, again, according to the National Advisory Commission of Civil Disorders. Okay? So, ladies, from your personal opinions, how are African Americans portrayed in the media? Positively, negatively, a mix? Talk to me.
Well, I would like to also say about the National Advisory Commission, that was called the Kerner Commission Report, and it will be 50 years old this year. Can I give a plug for our department?
Please do.
We are going to have a forum or a seminar on the 50th anniversary of the Kerner Commission Report here on campus from 1:30 to 3 o'clock on February the 22nd. It is in conjunction with Black History Month activities. And we will look at the impact of Kerner Commission on the local areas. Hopefully we can find some African-American reporters who were involved in that, engaged during that period. I don't believe there was any riots here, but that report said something that was even more significant than what is here, that too long the media has looked at the world through the eyes of a white man. And that they were responsible. Papers were largely responsible for the rioting because they had ignored the plight of blacks in this country, or Negroes as they called them at that time. There was another quote that's very famous, that we are moving toward two societies, one black, one white, unequal.
Interesting. And they found this in 1968.
Yes.
Yes.
After the 67, all the Detroit riots, what they call the long, hot summer.
So would you say that finding is still correct today, Dr. Jackson?
I would say that we have more African Americans, we have more people of color in the mass media. As I was speaking with Iisha, just because you have a person of color doesn't mean that they are going to be allowed to depict anything according to their ethnic background. The media is largely white, and it looks at the world through those same eyes. How could you say when O.J. Simpson's picture was darkened by time in the 1990s during his trial? I don't know if you remember Time, there was an image of him, his face was darkened. And so Time was taken to task for that, and we were at a NABJ convention, and they asked the editor, why did you do this? And he said, we did this because we wanted to show that the sun had gone down on an American hero. And he was dark, and they had his number, his jail number, right below this mug shot of him. And we were like, what? And that got by not only the white editors, but there were black people in the room, too, who thought nothing was wrong with that. That you are criminalizing him, making him black, thrusting him from the, as Jesse Jackson said, you just thrust him from the bosom of the white community and said, take him, he's yours now.
Wow. Wow.
Or take him back.
Right, take him back. 757-823-9110. Let us know your thoughts. How do you feel about African Americans in the media right now? What's wrong? So, Iisha, what is your opinion about how African Americans are portrayed in the media today?
Well, I think, as Dr. Jackson mentioned, a large portion of newsrooms, radio, newspapers, a large portion of that newsroom is white. We have a very small amount of African Americans in the media across the board. But I do think that's why it's so important to get diversity and to get not only African Americans, but, other people in the newsroom, so that when it comes to judgment of stories and when it comes, especially into management in newsrooms or even newspapers across the board. Yeah. And it's something that we spoke of at NABJ, which is the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. We speak about that almost every year that they have the convention, is how do we get more people into the field of media so that they can have that voice, and so that they are saying, well, I don't think you should say it like that because it may offend this type of person. Yes. So I think trying to get more people of color in the media is so important. And they are stressing diversity at these conventions that we're attending, and it's important. It's really important. And
to add to that, when that whole fiasco happened with Dove, it was a advertisement with the young lady. She was Caucasian at first. She was white, pale, and then no, she was black first. Yep, and then with the brown shirt, then she kind of was lifting up the shirt to show that she was clean now and a Caucasian woman. And then the young boy who had the coolest monkey in the jungle sweatshirt. I saw a lot of comments about nobody's black in there, because if somebody was black in that advertisement agency or in that room when those decisions were being made, then they would have said, you know what?
But his mother was black, and she
didn't say anything.
It was all right with her.
This is true. This is true, and I'm sure she was on the set when they was doing the photo shoot. But we need more black people in those rooms to say, you know what, that might not come across all too well. We do have a call. Let's get to it. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Hello, my name is Terrence.
Clarence?
Terrence.
Hey, Terrence. What's your question?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Go ahead and talk to me.
Yes, I just want to chime in on today's discussion about the media and African Americans and how we play our part in it.
Please do.
Yeah, I just want to know, basically, we got to get down to how we're going to change it. We know that there's a problem, but how are we going to change it and start it and start this new evolution of how we're seen on the media.
Do you have any suggestions on how we could change that?
Well, one of the suggestions is education. If I had $1 billion, I may be able to do a little bit more, but sometimes word and advice.
I know.
Word and advice goes a long way. We just need a platform of one voice. But you know what it is with the media, we have a lot of different voices and opinions are good, but I think it's time for us to have a leader, one leader. And if we can hop on board with supporting that one leader or a couple, then I think we can be a more effective. But due to the fact that there's so many different variances of opinions, it's going to take probably 1,000 years to change anything.
In the absence of a leader, we have parents. I think that secondary education is so important. And we see people are now trying to change the history books, like in Texas, where they were saying that the African slaves were, they called them workers, that they came over to work here. The textbooks were saying this. They had to change them in the end.
So they didn't say slaves, they said workers.
Yes, like
wow.
like somebody just came over here to this country to be an immigrant worker.
Wow.
And they were trying to put that in the secondary schools, in the textbooks,
wow.
until a black parent saw it and said, wait a minute, what is this? And they started, Black Twitter probably got into it. And they had to change it. They are trying to rewrite textbooks for our children. And if we are not vigilant, our children will learn as I learned growing up in the 50s and the 60s in Mississippi. I thought Cleopatra had blue eyes, like Elizabeth Taylor.
Yep.
What did I know?
And now they're saying Nefertiti. Exactly.
And, to piggyback off of what Dr. Jackson was saying, it's interesting because I'm actually doing a story for Black History Month on the National Museum of African American History and Culture in D.C. And we were just there. We were just there on Friday, and I brought my grandparents with me, and that was their first time there. And I learned so much from that museum. I had never known half of the stuff in that museum.
Wow.
I didn't learn in school, and not to say anything about the schools, but I learned so much from that museum at 30. I had never known.
Yes. So Terrence did make a good point. Education, because if we're teaching ourselves our history, especially the history that was before slavery in the 1600s, or the history that is in between Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks, and that is very, very important. So what we'll do, we'll take a little break, and then when we return, we will get right back into the conversation. If you are on the phone, make sure you hold on for me, but we do want to hear from you. 757-823-9110. What is wrong with the programming and the music that you are hearing today in regards to African Americans? Is it portrayed positively, negatively? Talk to me. 823-9110. It is Hampton Roads Voices, Blackface on Hot 91. Hot 91 is Hampton Roads Voices. Yes, your favorite public affairs show. We always bring the issues that you care about and issues that you didn't even know you cared about. And we, bring it and throw it in your face. Like this one, tonight's episode is entitled Blackface. We're talking about how African Americans are portrayed in the media, whether it's music, print media, with the advertisements on the internet, of course, television, film, all of it. All right. So I have special guest experts here. Dr. Kathy M. Jackson. She is an associate professor in the Mass Comm and Journalism Department of Norfolk State University. And Iisha Scott. She is with WVEC, a meteorologist, and also the president of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals. And we have you, Hampton Roads, 757-823-9110. I already threw out a question about, in your opinion, tell us what's wrong with the programming that you see and hear having to do with African Americans. But I want to know some other stuff. What do you think media needs to do more of to increase or continue positive portrayal in the media as far as African Americans? I want to hear you. 823-9110. We have two callers, so let's get to it. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Hello, this is Bonita.
Hey, Bonita, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's your question, comment, or concern?
I have a comment.
Okay.
And I want to say that developing a cultural self-esteem is the key to changing how we are viewed in the media.
I like that, Bonita.
Yes. I mean, it's important. Learning about who we are as a people, that gives us a pride in ourselves. And it won't allow people to... at that point, we won't allow people to treat us certain ways. We won't allow people to put us into certain lights. I mean, we won't be able to be brought into certain scenarios. So that to me is the key to changing how we look in the media. Because some of us, like you said, the young man's mom that he wore the coolest monkey in the jungle. She probably got paid for that. So it was probably a monetary thing that allowed her to, allow her son to be featured in that way.
You also have to remember that she wasn't American. She was from Europe. And they have different perspectives on race than we do.
I was about to say the same thing. It's all about your perception.
Yeah, so we have to say no to some things, no matter what the cost.
I like that, Benita. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty. Next caller, Hot 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
This is Evelyn. Hi.
Hi, Evelyn.
Hi.
Thank you for calling. Thank you for listening. What's your question, comment, or concern?
My comment is that I feel that we were to teach more on economics. Because that's where it boils down to, is how to make money, how to open businesses, and that will automatically bring up your self-esteem, and that you really, and having business of your own, not just going to school to get a job, but also going to school to open your own business, and creating stuff yourself, and teaching about writing. I mean, singing and all that, that's great. It's not taking anything from the art, but we don't have a lot of writers, scientists, and we don't hear teaching the young people about economics, because all rich people can sit down to the same table and eat with no problem. I think it's an economical thing that we need more teaching on, and I think that will bring all of us together more, because I feel that even there's prejudice, I feel that if we knew more about economics, that we would grow more and to stop buying from each other, because all your other cultures they make sure they buy from their own culture, and we just buy from everybody. Now, our monies are so thin with each other.
So you're saying that if we are economically empowered, then that will in turn make us portrayed better in the media?
In the media and society.
Okay. So if we are empowered in the society, then the reflection of that will be better in the media.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha. All right, Evelyn. I'm with it. Thanks for calling. All righty. And we want to continue to hear from you. 823-9110, 757-823-9110. What do you think about how African Americans are portrayed in the media? You know what? If you have something positive to say, then call in. I want to hear that too. Of course, we already know there's a problem, and I want to continue to hear about the problems and the solutions that we have. But if you feel as though it's taking a turn for the better, I want to hear from you as well. Okay, ladies. So the stereotypes, those particular roles that we always see, that we always hear, what are those typical stereotypes that you always see in the media? You had to take a deep sigh on that one, huh?
Well, I mean, they're always there. Donald Bogle said some years ago that there were 5 stereotypes: the mammy, the Uncle Tom, the coon, the buck, and the tragic mulatto. In many ways, they're still there. I laugh with my students. I say that Martin was really a coonified show, that he was a coon. And they said, Martin? I said, yes, he was. And the same with Empire. I mean, you have the buck, she's the mammy, really, because she is this loud woman, cookie. And so these stereotypes, they are still with us. They may have changed over the years to fit into modern society. Right. But it's just like, look at Aunt Jemima. In the beginning, she had a handkerchief on her head. She was dark. She had on slave clothes. And they took the handkerchief off her head, gave her a perm, but she's still on those food products. She's updated, but she's still Aunt Jemima.
I think it's important in order to combat some of these stereotypes, that we really look into fields and opportunities that we don't find many of us, of African Americans. And I say that because I have always wanted to be a meteorologist. And whenever I would tell someone that, they're like, a media what?
Right,
like,
exactly.
What is that? And growing up, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me that was doing the weather. So it was discouraging a little bit, but I think if we got more African Americans interested in fields that defy those stereotypes.
Right.
I think that would really help.
I think so too.
That would be wonderful. And I think there are a lot of African Americans out there, especially all people of color, who are doing wonderful things in different fields, but they don't get the acknowledgement that they are there. Mm-hmm. And even when they do, we fall back on the same old tropes, like the first meteorologist, first black. When are we going to stop being the first? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they tell us how far you are from slavery. Her great-great-grandmother, like they did with Michelle Obama, her great, it's always this connection to slavery, how far we have come to be the first. Why can't we just be who we are and be achievers?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, 823-9110. How come we just can't be who we are and be achievers? I want to hear from you. We'll take a call, and then we'll go on a quick break. Hi, AT1, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Tanya.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you for calling.
Hi, I wanted to make a comment.
Please.
I think that the best way in order for us to be portrayed differently in the media and everywhere I think it really starts with how we treat each other also. I do understand the economics of it and everything, but when other cultures and when other people see us treating each other a certain kind of way, then that really affects how they feel like they can treat us and how they portray us as well. So I feel like if we were to come together more and treat each other nicer, then we could have a better portrayal.
I like that. So I can kind of, when you say that, I have some programs in mind, but, we don't have any ties to any big, networks. So what are some programs that you can think of in your mind that, kind of shows us or depicts, us not being so kind to one another? Can you think of any?
I mean, first of all, it's not even programs. Basically, all you have to do is look on the news. You can look on the news. You can see, how basically the crime rate amongst ourselves, how it is. We have or if you even go on social media, you'll see how people, how we degrade each other, and call each other type of names. We have this reputations, you're broke, you this, you that. We down each other, we put each other down instead of lifting each other up. But we're so quick to lift up other cultures and other people. But then when it comes to our own, we treat each other terribly. And in order for us to be able to prosper in society as a people, we have to love each other first. It starts with us, ourselves. Before we can help anybody else, anything, or become anything productive, we have to do it within our own communities first. We have to love ourselves before we love anybody else.
And then that will, in turn, show us positively on camera.
Exactly. And then they will not think that they can talk and treat us the way that they do, because it almost looks as if we have no respect for ourselves, so why should they respect us? It's what it almost looks like. And then the things that we allow them to do, like we allow other cultures, for example, we allow other cultures to call us the N-word. I noticed that this generation that's an okay thing. Everybody can use that word now. None of us should be using it, but when it gets to the point where you can allow someone else to call you that, and it's cool, it's hip, it's the thing to do, that's a mistake.
Absolutely.
But that's what I think.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling.
No problem.
Yes. And I agree too. Now, I would say that, I don't know about this generation. I'm young, but I'm getting into the old threshold in a little bit. I'm 26 years old. I know nobody that I know, millennials, are going to allow somebody else to say that word. They're still about that life. Like, oh, hold up. What you say? Even though, and I do agree with her, like, we shouldn't even be using the word, but, no, we're not allowing nobody else to use the word. Listen, I have a quote by Malcolm X. He said it in 1964 in New York City's Audubon Ballroom. He said, quote, "This is the press, an irresponsible press. It will make the criminal look like he's the victim and make the victim look like he's the criminal. If you aren't careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing, end quote. So when we return, we're going to be getting into the news, how the news, their hand in maybe positive and negative African-American portrayal. All right, it's Hampton Rose Voices, Blackface, and we want to hear from you, 757-823-9110, 823-9110. Keep it locked. It's Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. Happy new episode of Hampton Rose Voices. Yes, I know you guys wait every single week for this show, and we are back. Yes, your demand has been met. Tonight's episode is entitled Blackface, and we're talking about how African Americans are portrayed in the media. I think that is so very important to have at least a conversation about and try to reach a solution, because it can really start with us. It can start with us and what we demand to see, what we demand to not see, and then, our demand can be met with people that are in power in media. Okay, I have Dr. Kathy M. Jackson here. She is the associate professor in the mass comm and journalism departments at Norfolk State University, and I have Iisha Scott. She is a meteorologist at WVEC and president of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals. And we have you, Hampton Roads. Yes, give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110, and we can really talk about what you think is wrong or right in the programming that you are seeing and you're hearing in regards to African Americans, and what we can do to make that a little bit better. So when I got off of the air, I said that we'll be talking about news. All right. We already know it's a problem. If you are on Black Twitter, we troll people all, and I say we because I am heavily on Black Twitter. We troll media outlets that kind of show the difference in how Black victims and non-Black victims are portrayed in the headlines alone, and criminals, of Black criminals and then non-Black criminals. And a great example of that was the sniper and in Las Vegas most recently, and things of that nature. But I said a quote from Malcolm X, and I'm going to say it again because I really think it should hit home. So he said, quote, "This is the press, an irresponsible press. It will make the criminal look like he's the victim and make the victim look like he's the criminal. If you aren't careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing." End quote. Very interesting. All right, so let's get to the phone lines because you guys have a lot to say, and I'm going to let you say it. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Brenda Williams.
You say, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Brenda Williams.
Okay, hi, Miss Brenda. Can you share your question, comments, or concern?
Yes, I pretty much wanted to say that the person that was ahead of me,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what they were saying as far as love, but I want to go a step further and say that I believe that we have to develop more respect for ourselves, because if we don't respect ourselves, there's no way we can get into the work world and have love and respect for the other person of our color.
I like
whether
that.
it's our color or whatever color. We have to first begin to love ourselves. And then when we go into the work world, especially with our people, we'll be able to step in without any animosity or any guilt or anything in our minds or our hearts as far as helping the next person. And there's something called, when you try to help the one, they'll pull you down. If you love and respect yourself and the next person, you wouldn't worry about that because you show them love and they will feel that love and help them to respect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that would go a long ways.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, Miss Brenda, have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Oh, that call dropped. No worries, 823-9110. So let's get into the news, ladies, and then a little bit later we'll get into television and film. And if anybody wants to call in and take the direction into music, we can do that too. So, do you ladies believe, clearly I do, but do you believe that there are some bias in media outlets in regards to news coverage in regards to African Americans?
I want to quote a 2014 Huffington Post story. It was under the heading of Black Voices, which is now owned by Huffington Post. And they looked at, the title is, When the Media Treats White Suspects and Killers Better Than Black Victims. And just a sample of the headlines. For example, white suspect, Oregon school shooting suspect, fascinated with guns, but was a devoted Mormon, his friends say. Black victim, police, slain Lakeland teen, had been shot before, death possibly drug-related. And it goes on and on. Son in Staten Island murders was brilliant, athletic, but his demons were the death of his parents. Black victim, Trayvon Martin, was suspended 3 times from school. When you always have to talk about the victim as though it was their life that put them there, their circumstances, their own fault that they got shot or killed or stabbed or whatever because they were involved in some activities that were criminal, what does that say about the news? And when people don't even see that there's a question there. You know, Trayvon Martin was victimized over and over again. He was suspended. He had some drugs. He was smoking marijuana. He was a kid and he's dead. Right. Through no fault of his own.
Absolutely. And I know another thing having to do with the headline. Sometimes we see when they have the pictures of the victim or the pictures of the suspect. Even for victims, they'll have a mugshot, a past mugshot of a black victim who committed no crime having to do with that particular story, and then they'll have like a picture of, you know, a non-black person with their dogs, you know, or with their family smiling, or, you know, and even though they were a criminal in that particular story. So that's one thing that I've seen as well. Do you believe that there may be some bias in how stories are covered, Iisha? I do think there's some bias. And, you know, not any particular network or anything like that, but referencing with Trayvon Martin, I do think there was a little bit of bias there. I think that we have to, and I know I keep going back to the whole diversity thing, and I spoke on that earlier, and I think if we had more people, and in this case, I'll say African Americans, if we had more African Americans to say, why are we referencing that when we speak of Trayvon Martin? You know, why is there the difference? Right. I think it could have made a difference.
But would the journalists have even caught that? I mean, that's the same pattern that's over and over again. And I quote from a book by Susan Ross and Paul Lester, and it says that journalists may resist the idea that they harbor unconscious racial assumptions. We look at that unless you are truly aware of the difference in those headlines, and we think nothing is wrong with it. Yeah. You first have to be more aware of the situation.
And that goes back to education.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
When I was a journalist, I might not have been aware of that difference in those kind of headlines.
So tell me, what type of images do we typically see in the news having to do with African Americans? In your opinion, when you turn on the news at night, what type of stories are you seeing having to do with us?
Crime. It's Black History Month, so we are having a whole month of activities that show us in a better light. This is our month to shine.
Yes.
Next month we'll be dead in the streets again.
Absolutely. And it takes people who are working in news, you know, to say, hey, speak up to the management. Hey, we should do this. We should cover this. And, you know, in return, that manager or that news director or whoever will say, you know what, we should. Because sometimes those people in power, they're white. And that's just not on their radar. They're not thinking, you know, oh, it will be very important to show this particular program that's happening at Norfolk State or this program at Regent University. But when it's brought to their attention, you know, they're like, you know what? Yes, we do. We do have a very large Black audience that we need to cater to. And not even that. I think it will be good coverage. So I think that's pretty important. How can media bias be harmful to the community at large? What do you think the effects of that could be?
Well, kind of going back to, I don't remember the caller's name, but she mentioned the quote that came to my mind was, you treat people you teach people how to treat you.
Right.
And she mentioned treating each other better. So if I treat you, you know, with love and with respect as my brother or my sister, then I'm showing the outside world and how I'm supposed to be treated. So I do think it starts there. I do. You know, with media, we see a lot of crime, especially with African Americans, you know, killing and shooting each other. So if we weren't so much involved in that and we actually treated each other with love and with respect, then I think anybody on the outside world would say, oh, okay, well, that's how they treat each other. Therefore, that's the view that I have of them as a people.
But don't we first have to have those stories told?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's about the image. What we do in private in our communities, unless it is exposed as being the norm to counter those criminals, those crime stories, how do we need more stories about things like that?
We do.
That's kind of like, was the chicken first or the egg first?
Right.
You know, should we start there with showing you know, love and respect for each other, and then it will be depicted on TV correctly, or should that be shown first? And the effect of that was, you know, what I think both of those maybe simultaneously could have a better effect. Okay, so you know, going back to what I said about some people in power not being intentional with leaving us out. Do you believe that this media bias is intentional or unintentional? Do you think it's deliberate?
I tell my students, I teach a class in multiculturalism and mass media, that no one gets up in the morning, you know, news directors, editors, they don't go into their budget meeting and say, how can we put down the black man today?
Exactly.
It's an unconscious choice of the stories that have always been played, of the images that they are going to select and use, of the headlines. It's unconscious, but it's there. And it takes somebody like Iisha or other people to bring it out and say, you know, not quite. That's not going to be perceived the way you think it's going to be. I recall a story I did when I was in Flint, and I thought it was a little cute, off the chain kind of story about why are doctors' handwriting so bad. And so I went around, I did my diversity thing. You know, I got an Iranian doctor, I had a white doctor, I had black doctors, and I had a Hispanic doctor. And they all gave me a sample of their handwriting, and they were supposed to have a picture to go along with it. Well, it ended up that I could only get the people of color in their pictures and not the white ones. And so my editor said, no, we can't run this. She made me aware of something. She said, because people are going to say that it's only the people of color whose handwriting
is bad.
It's bad.
Oh, that's a good point.
But it takes that. It takes, like, for instance, it's Black History Month.
Right.
And as far as I know, almost all the stations are doing something with Black History Month. But if you didn't have those people in newsrooms saying, hey, we really need to do this to celebrate African American culture, we should be doing it all year round, but that's a whole nother topic. But at least during Black History Month, I don't think it's intentional. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, that diversity thing. We've got to get more African Americans, more people of color in the media and in the newsrooms across the country, whether it's television, whether it's newspapers, radio stations, just so that we have a voice.
Right.
I really don't think it's intentional.
Yeah, it's not. And it's really off of what they know. And I thought it was very interesting, and we can I'll revisit this when we talk about film and television. But if you are familiar with Orange is the New Black, the Netflix show, it's about a lot of people of color and their struggles. But all of the writers for that show are white. And they're telling stories about a black trans woman, telling a story about a Hispanic woman, telling the stories about plenty of black women, particularly in jail, and how they ended up in jail. And these writers are white. So it's it intrigued me on how you can tell a black woman's story being white. Of course, all the research in the world probably couldn't depict the correct story. So I just thought that was interesting. Also, Sally Lerman, she's a former chairwoman of the Diversity Committee at the Society of Professional Journalists. She said something very, very interesting. She said, according to the Radio and Television News Directors Association, television newsrooms are nearly 80% white, while radio newsrooms are 92% white. Wow. Also, according to the American Society of News Editors, the percentage of minority journalists have remained between 12 and 14% for more than a decade. That might be a problem. Okay.
Well, ASNY started that study because they were trying to obtain parity, that the percentage of African Americans in the population or people of color would equal the percentage of those who are employed in the industry. And it started climbing maybe the 90s, the 80s, and more recently the percentage has dropped down as newsrooms have shrunken. And so ASNY, I think the last time I heard about it, said that they weren't even going to do the study anymore because they were never going to equal that 20% that, was parallel to the population.
Wow. Is right. Alrighty, we want to hear from you. 823-9110, 823-9110. We're going to move into television and film and how we are seeing us portrayed on your TV. Okay, you go home. You turn on that TV and you're like, oh, my show's coming on. What kind of shows are you watching, girl? Tell me. Are those shows depicting us in the positive light or the negative light? Let me know. 823-9110, 823-9110. It is Hampton Rose Voices, Blackface on Hot 91. Hot 91, you're live on. You're live on. You are listening live to Hampton Rose Voices. Yes, a brand new episode entitled Blackface. And blackface kind of, where it derives from when non-black people back in the day used to perform as a mockery of us and how we used to act, and they used to paint their face black. Okay, very highly offensive. And now today's time, how we're being portrayed in the media can be seen the same way, very offensive and just not as positive as it can be. But we do have positive programming as well. And you know what? That's where I want you to come in. If you have a positive program in mind that you watch regularly and you think this is exactly what African Americans need for their depictions and portrayals, similar to the Cosby Show back in the day, why don't you call in 757-823-9110, 823-9110, and tell me how or what we can do to continue those positive depictions that we see on television. Okay, so we have special guest experts here. Iisha Scott, she's a meteorologist with WVEC and the president of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals. And also Dr. Kathy M. Jackson, associate professor here at Norfolk State University. She teaches mass comm and journalism courses. Yes, she does. I even had her, but she don't remember me because, oh, you did too, Iisha? Mm-hmm. I behaved and I got a good grade in that class. Too. Yes, ma'am.
That's why she doesn't remember.
That's right.
Yes, good.
You ended up acting crazy. I remember you.
Alrighty, so we talked about news and we talked about a whole plethora of things, but let's get into television and film. And again, 757-823-9110, 823-9110. I want you in this conversation as well. Okay. So do you ladies think that depictions of blacks, of African Americans on television, have we progressed positively or are we progressing negatively or a little bit of both?
When it comes to films and TV shows, I think we're moving in a positive direction.
Okay.
I do, because we're seeing more and more, in my opinion, shows and films that really show us in a better light. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, The Cosby Show.
Yeah.
That was a big one. A Different World. Blackish. And now today we have Blackish. Mm-hmm. We have Grown-ish. That just came out. And so I think we are moving in a good direction. I really do.
Good. How about you, Dr. Jackson?
I think especially with films and even in TV programs, it's because we're beginning to own our own voices. Yeah. Like Dee Reeves and her movie Mudbound, and John Singleton and all the people, Spike Lee. Mm-hmm. When we can tell our own stories, we do much better. And that's the difference. And I think all these with Shonda Rhimes, that woman is a powerhouse.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
And the stories that she tells are not necessarily black stories.
Yeah. Right.
We are in an environment where we are real, where we have weight and soul and all these other things. We are not just black people stuck into a story like we are in the history books.
Yeah.
I teach history courses, and so when I teach American press history, in the past, you might see a little blurb about Ida B. Wells, Frederick Douglass, but there are no whole sections on us. And so in film, now with movies and TV programs, we are there doing all of these things, being lawyers and major publicists like Olivia. Somebody gonna kill her one of these days.
You keep up with the show, Dr. Jackson?
Oh yeah, I keep up with the show.
So, I believe it's moving in a positive light too. But when we get to like your Tyler Perry's, we hear what's the word I'm looking for? He gets a lot of backlash sometimes because the whole Medea character. Do you think that's art? And he's kind of owning, a character that, most black families have? Or do you think he's just being a coon, buffoonery?
I think that Tyler Perry used those stories to get his foot in the door because he knew he would have a large audience for those plays because, they started out at the Medea plays.
Absolutely.
Not that I would drive 1 inch to go see one, but a lot of people did. And so he used that. It's just like we were talking about rappers. They started out using drugs to get their, to get money and stuff. And so I think he did that. And now he's trying to move away from that in a different direction.
He is.
But he's still using Medea. Didn't a movie come out recently about Medea?
Was it in Boo? October, Boo, too, I believe. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All of that's a waste of electricity. But anyway. And what's the one that's on the TV? The Tylers?
House of Pain. Meet the Browns. I think that's what you're talking about. God. Yeah. The Brown character gets a lot of backlash, too.
The one with all the crazy clothes on?
Yeah, and the ashy knees.
But I think, maybe I'm just an optimist, but I think that he's trying to make this stuff relatable. And I think he's saying, okay, this is what the majority of my audience, mainly African American, and this is what they can relate to.
Yeah.
They know their grandma is just like Medea, or, they have an uncle with ashy knees like Brown, or, so he's trying to make them, I think, relatable. And it's like, okay, I grab the audience in by making my characters relatable and making my audience comfortable now with my characters, and let me try to go a different route. Right. I do, however, I have a problem personally with some of the stereotypes that Tyler Perry tends to put out. But I don't think it was intentional. Like, I don't think he did it to just make fun of, like, the African American culture.
Right. It's what sells.
But stereotypes are so ingrained into our culture. I mean, it's like I know people who will not even, African Americans who will not even eat watermelon in public because of the stereotypes.
Seriously.
Or fried chicken. Even though they love it, they won't eat it if it's in mixed company, if there are white people around. And I'm like, please, I love watermelon.
I know.
Okay, I would tear up a chicken wing. I don't care where I'm at.
But on the other hand, when you have shows like House of Pain, like the young man said earlier, these images are globalized, and that's the danger. I grew up watching Amos and Andy, but it didn't bother me because I didn't know any people like Amos and Andy or Lightning or any of them. I thought it was funny. But as I grew older and I learned the impact of these images, that they go around the world, and somebody, if I'm going to Europe or somewhere and nobody has ever seen a black person, are they looking at me like I'm Medea?
Right.
I would,
because that's all they know.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get Dr. Jackson started. 823-9110, 823-9110. What kind of programs are you watching on television? Call us and let us know. If you have a confession to make and say, hey, you know what? I am entertained by Love and Hip Hop because KHILO is, Miami and New York. And I just watch and I'm just like, I should not be watching this because this is just a whole hot mess. Like, this is how black women are being portrayed, throwing drinks on each other and fighting every chance they get and cannot communicate effectively.
Or like Cookie pulling the tablecloth off with all the dishes on it.
I mean, I should not be watching this, but it's so entertaining. You know what? I want to hear those types of confessions. What do you think those types of images have? What kind of effects are those images having on our young queens that are coming up, or even you? Okay, 823-9110, 823-9110. So, ladies, Marlon Riggs, he is the director of 2 documentaries about Black images. One of them is called Color Adjustment, and the other one is called Ethnic Notions. All right. So he says, quote, Black folks have played the role of absorbing and reflecting all that is wrong with America. Again, Black folks have played the role of absorbing and reflecting all that is wrong with America, end quote. What do you think he meant by that? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Well, I've seen both of these documentaries.
Really?
And used them in class. And I think what he's talking about is that Black people have become the fall guys for society. We are the reason why there's crime. When, 35% of, 1/3 of Blacks are in the criminal justice system. We become the face of poverty and welfare when that's not really the numbers. White people are more of them on welfare than we are. So in many ways, with the stereotypes and the way we are depicted, yes, we are the problems of America. We have become the problem instead of the people who created us and created the images and made us the problem.
What do you think, Iisha?
I think we've got to then figure out a way to combat that. We have to figure out a way to, okay, if the issue is that African Americans are, on food stamps more than any other race, when that's not true, then what do we do then to say, no, this is not true, and this is not how we're going to portray ourselves.
Right.
We're going to portray ourselves in a better light. It's tough.
It is tough. Yeah. And I think we are starting to get a hang of telling our own stories the way that we want to tell them. So, for instance, it's a new show on BET. It's called The Rundown with Robin Thede. I love that show. If you have not checked that show, it comes on Thursdays at 11 p.m. It's kind of late, so you might want to record it. But she talks about current events and political current events in a way that is astonishing. It's amazing to watch because she delivers it, of course, in comedic relief, but it's not degrading. And she also delivers it in a way that I can digest it as being a young Black woman. I don't want to sit and watch C-SPAN or whatever that network is called all day. CNN. I don't want, because it's not as entertaining, but she, gives us the information that we need from one Black woman to another.
So is she the Jon Stewart of BET?
Kind of, sort of, yes. And it's kind of like a late night show, like kind of like who are those late night show guys that, gosh, their names escape me. Not John Leno. Who are the guys that are on TV? Jimmy Fallon. Like those types. They kind of deliver it funny, but in a more cultural type of way. So I really like that. If you guys have not checked that out, please do, because she tackles things like. For example, it was a story in Miami how they're pushing out Black people in particular areas to build up real estate that will sell and, a lot more expensive.
But that's just happening here now. When they're
it
closing
sure
down
is.
the projects near the scope.
It sure
and
is.
Building all those expensive apartments and condos right across the street.
That's been a hot topic for
gentrification.
Yep, and that's exactly what they did to Ghent some years ago. Ghent was a whole project, or it was the hood, and they kind of pushed it out and put up new housing that the people that lived there before couldn't afford. So yeah, The Rundown. I'm really plugging her.
I'm gonna have to check that show out.
And I'm gonna have to get a check. Let's go to the phone lines. Hi, 981, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
My name is Franklin Bellamy.
Hello there. How are you today?
I am great, and good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just tuned in. I just got in my car, and I heard the name Iisha. And I'm thinking, is this Miss Iisha from Channel 13?
Yes.
It sure is. Iisha Scott.
Oh, my goodness. I enjoy when my feet hit the floor, my TV comes on to Channel 13 so I can get the morning news before I hit my desk at 6 o'clock in the morning. But I just want to give you a compliment, Miss Iisha, because I think you are the epitome of the up-and-coming young professional black woman. I think that there are more African American women on TV nowadays. I mean, I'm 48, but I look at them and I'm like, these are some of the women that have paved the way for you to be who you are on TV. Not saying that you didn't get there on your own,
right?
But they're lacking something. When I turn on the TV and I see images of myself and images that my daughter should be looking at, I'm thinking to myself, now, forgive me on this part, I'm thinking, where are their hairstylists? Where's the makeup artist? Where's the boutique that they are at? And I'm thinking, you're on television. You have 7 cities here. I don't really know how far Channel 13 reaches. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. But you can't get a good hairstylist. You can't get a good makeup artist. You can't get a good stylist. And there is a lady, a European American lady that's on my daughter's, she's a parent for Maury. My daughter is part of crew for Maury, and I am an African American woman. And she was telling me that the ladies on TV have stylists. They have hair people. They have makeup people. And I'm like thinking, well, they need to take some lessons from Iisha and Aaron because these ladies have got it going on. And it's just a joy to see you all. But that was basically my comment. I would love to hear you elaborate on why is it that some of these women are on TV and their lace front wig still looks crazy, or they're still going to ching-chings to get these synthetic wigs. I don't understand what is going on with these sisters. They're supposed to set an example.
And before she answers, Franklin, I do have a question. Are you witnessing this in this market? You don't have to say any names. Okay. All right. Just wondering. Okay.
I see it. Let me say this. I do not watch mainstream TV for nothing but for the news. I watch the BBC, I watch CNN, I watch Dateline, I watch the local news. Gotcha. I'm a news person. I read the newspaper. I don't cut the TV on to watch Jimmy Fallon.
Okay.
I don't cut the TV on to watch Love and Hip Hop. Nor does my daughter. We have other things going on in our life that keep us busy, but I want to know what's going on where I live at, so I tune in the morning.
Okay.
To see what's happening or what happened last night. Other than that, I don't watch it. And if I'm watching, I am watching Channel 13, and I see these women of color, women that have been on TV for years, and I'm like thinking to myself, take some lessons from these 2 young ladies because the hair is in there, the clothes are beautiful, the makeup. Now, I know Iisha, you don't wear as much as Aaron, but
oh, Lord.
It's simple, it's simplistic, but Aaron, I think she is so beautiful. I think Iisha is so beautiful, with or without makeup. It's not a put down that Iisha wears less and Aaron wears more. They are beautiful young women, and the older women on TV need to take some lessons and not be so like, I'm not going to ask her. I don't know what the issue is, but yeah, I see it. My daughter sees it, and she's like thinking, I'm natural, and I wouldn't wear a wig that looks like that, or I wouldn't wear that gaudy jewelry on TV. I see it. And somebody, I mean, my grandmother wrote in years ago when I was about 8 years old to a station in Memphis. There was a lady who was the anchor, and her hair looked bad. My grandmother wrote in, do you know that lady in 2 weeks, she had a new stylist? I don't know if it was because of my grandmother. My grandmother thinks it was, but it's bad. It's bad. And we've come a long ways, and we don't have to look like that anymore.
Aisha?
That's just my opinion.
Well,
ladies, have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you.
Okay. All righty.
Bye-bye.
Well, here's the interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people know. I speak at a lot of schools, to a lot of events, especially dealing with girls, and everyone thinks I have my own hairstylist, my own makeup artist. I have like a bodyguard that follows me around. I have like an entourage, and I don't. I do my own makeup. My hair is natural, so I wear a wig.
Wow. Okay.
So my hair is natural, and it's natural, and I don't straighten it because I don't want to keep putting heat on my hair
Absolutely.
daily. So I wear a wig, and what I did, I learned everything from YouTube.
Gotcha. So you do your own looks.
I do my own makeup.
Okay, so that's a double compliment. Okay.
So I learned from YouTube.
Gotcha.
And my thinking is maybe with the younger generation is we are exposed to so much more in terms of like YouTube and, you know, Instagram. I'm on Instagram all the time looking up makeup videos. So I'm trying to get a little bit better at the makeup and the hair and all that stuff. When I bought my first wig, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want it to look like a wig.
Right. This brings up an interesting point about you wearing a wig versus your natural hair, which is a big deal with a lot of people now. Yeah. Why can't a black woman wear her natural hair and be successful in the news?
Well, she can.
Okay.
So I have a friend, actually I have two friends. One, you probably remember Layla Muhammad.
Yes.
She was at Channel 3.
Yes, Layla did go natural.
She went natural on air. I have a friend that's a meteorologist in D.C. She just went natural on air, and she was wearing wigs at first. And she just went natural on air, and I think her news director is a white male. So we are finding more and more African American women are wearing their natural hair on TV. However, natural hair, when it comes to TV, now I don't know if anybody knows anything about TV, but I get up at 2:30 in the morning.
Okay.
To be
I see where you're going.
TV at 4:30.
Yes.
So it will take me longer to style my natural hair than it will to just
throw
on this wig.
Yes, girl.
And just keep it moving.
I feel you.
So that's why I do it. And it's not because I truly think that if I went to, you know, my news director and said, hey, I really think I want to wear my hair natural, I think he would be perfectly fine with it. But it also comes with, you know, the work, especially when you work so early in the morning.
Exactly.
I mean, my time is limited in the morning.
And that's a whole nother different topic. But, you know, the difference between just the easiness of throwing in a weave or, you know, it's low maintenance. You know, we're not wearing it to conform or look like anybody else. It's easy. You know, this sew-in is easy. I got these cornrows underneath this wig. It's easy. And she's waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So
now I do, when I'm off work for like 3-4 days, I'll wear my natural curls. I've posted a picture of me with my curls on Instagram, and people love it. And they're like, oh my gosh, your hair is so pretty. But it would be hard for me to keep up 5 days a week. It'd just be too much time.
Gotcha.
So
okay. Sounds good to me.
If anybody wants to learn makeup,
YouTube.
That's why I've learned like everything.
Yes, YouTube has wonderful things. 823-9110, 823-9110. That was a nice compliment from Franklin to Iisha. Yes, I love that. All right, so we're still on television and film, ladies. Can you name a couple of television programs that you think promote positive portrayals of black characters in your opinion? We already did that, but if you can think of some, again, now maybe that you watch and explain why, you know, a little bit about the character's depth or the storyline. I'll start. Let's see. It's not on television anymore, but I loved Girlfriends.
Oh yeah,
I loved Girlfriends, and I wasn't that old when it was coming on air regularly, but when they were showing the reruns, and I was a little bit more of age, I was watching this show like, this is gold. I love this, you know. And of course, if you I think everybody heard about Girlfriends, but if you have not, it was 4 women who were really, really great friends, best friends even, and each of them had their own story, had their own struggles, had their own depth, had their own rights, had their own wrongs, and it was just great to watch and great for them to struggle, great to see them struggle, great to see them come out triumphant. I think it was a great story, and it was I believe it was created, and if not created, then executive produced by Mara Brock Akil. And she does great programming. She had her hand in Moesha and a couple of the other sitcoms that we know. But I think Mara Brock Akil, her being a black woman in those types of positions to create something like that, I think is pure gold. So I love that show. Do you guys have any other shows and programs?
I think 2 of my favorite right now, Being Mary Jane,
and
Insecure.
I love Insecure.
Yeah, that show is just so raw.
Yes,
it's no sugarcoating
anything.
And I think that's what I can appreciate about it. And it shows us especially being Mary Jane, it shows us in a different light. You know, it shows an African-American woman, you know, on a national platform. And not that long ago, we weren't allowed to be on television.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it tends to sway more towards, obviously, like news and things of that nature. But I just love those two shows. They're so positive, and they just show us in an awesome light.
Right. And it's really no stereotypes in that show, you know, and they have depth, you know. And one thing I love about Insecure, and when people are going back and forth on social media, is that nobody is right in certain situations. Nobody is absolutely wrong either, you know. It's life. So I really love that show. How about you, Dr. Jackson? What you be watching?
I don't usually watch network TV programs. I watched, like I said, I watched Blackish, and I've seen like a couple of episodes of This Is Us.
Why do you like Blackish?
I think it's like any sitcom. You know, they make fun of each other, but at the end of the day, they are still a family unit, and they are there for each other. They make fun of the grandmother and the grandfather, but it's an all-star cast almost. I mean, and it has a positive message about Black family life. Every episode, I think they bring to light something that's going on currently and kind of make it relatable. Yeah, I love that. And there used to be a show, it isn't on anymore. It was one of the Waynons on it, and he had a family, little girl, a boy, a teenage boy who My Wife and Kids. My Wife and Kids. I love that show. I do like that show. I do like it too. That was very non-stereotypical as well. And if you have not checked out the spinoff to Blackish, Grownish, Yara Shahidi, she's doing such a wonderful job. Her in general is beautiful.
That's what I mean by getting more African Americans in the media. And when I say the media, I don't just mean TV, radio, and newspaper. I mean across the board, film, sitcoms, you know, whatever it is, getting more of our voices and our faces out there. It tends to shape the narrative, I feel like. Right.
And I think the creator is Kenya Barris, Boris or something like that. Her first name is Kenya.
Of Grownish?
Of Grownish and Blackish. Yeah, the creator. Okay. Yep, absolutely. And we do have a caller. All right, let's get to the call. Hi, 921, you're live in the air. Who am I speaking with? Do we have a caller?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, can you hear me? You're live on the air. What's your name?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, this is Jack. I was just listening to the show. You guys got a wonderful show.
Thank you.
I was just, I heard the last call in about the lady from Detroit who said something about hair and makeup. And I think you ladies are just beautiful, and it's not about hair. You know, she need to go back and look at Spike Lee's School Days. And evidently she hasn't seen April Woodard on Coast Live because homegirl be hooking up. All you ladies are beautiful, and just keep on doing what you're doing. And don't get hung up. I understand what you say about maintenance and all that kind of stuff, you know, getting up early in the morning and this and that. But don't let that stop you from doing your thing. And the main thing is that the news that you're bringing to the people and the information that you're putting out. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Jay said, don't be scared to wear your natural hair. Are you doing it, sir? All right, then. I'm just joking. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and then when we return, we're going to wrap this up with, are we marginalizing ourselves? Okay? Listen, of course, topics like this always comes back to what are we doing ourselves, and we kind of tiptoed around it throughout the show, but we're going to be diving into that a little bit. And, of course, with your help, 757-823-9110, 823-9110. I want to know your opinion about how we are depicted and portrayed in the media. Do you like it? Do you not like it? I want to hear some of the programs that you are watching. Yeah. Okay, so make sure you keep it locked. It's Hot 81, Hampton Roads Voices, Blackface. Hot 91, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. KHILO is here with a new episode. We're wrapping up now, but the discussion was great. Blackface, Hampton Roads Voices, of course. I have special guest experts here. Dr. Kathy M. Jackson, Associate Professor in the Mass Comm and Journalism Department of Norfolk State University, and Iisha Scott, Meteorologist at WVEC and President of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals. So we've been talking about how Black people, how African Americans are portrayed in the media. whether it's on the internet or in advertisement or on TV. And we all have agreed here basically that there is some cleaning up to do, some things that we have to do, like many things in our community, but it is possible to do. But of course, we really can't get into this conversation about how we're portrayed with, non-blacks in positions to portray us without talking about how we're portraying ourselves. And when I think about that, I automatically think about Mona Scott Young, who is, I know Black Twitter has a great time with dragging her and saying, this episode was whack, or what kind of programming are you doing? And if you don't know who she is the creator and executive producer of Love and Hip Hop. Now, they don't have one in Atlanta, New York, Hollywood, and the theme with not only this franchise but other shows, reality shows like that, like the Real Housewives of Atlanta, is just messy Black women, showing that we really aren't united, and stuff like that. So, ladies, I'll ask you. Well, according to the Harvard Implicit Association test, 48% of African Americans also have implicit racial bias against Black people, which is pretty ironic. And that can be attributed to the effects of media bias and what we see in the media and things of that nature. Do you often find yourself subconsciously affected by the things that we see in TV, the depictions that we see? Do you think that you are kind of making you biased yourself? Honesty hour.
Not images I see on TV, but I'm more affected by what I see in reality. When I see loud women cursing on the cell phone or doing, just being so ghetto in public, I feel a little cringe coming on, because I know that we've not come to the place in time where we are not judged by what other Blacks do. That they look at all the rest of us and say, she's just one of them loud Black women. And I'm not loud like that at all. I don't look like that or anything, but I'm going to be judged by that. And so that bothers me much more than what I see on TV, because they're just trying to make a buck. Although those images are important, because, as I said before, they are globalized and they're become ingrained in the minds of people who don't even know any African Americans. So
I can agree with that.
Okay.
I certainly agree with that.
So programming really doesn't affect you. It's more of what's in reality?
Yeah, and I think because I work in the media, so I tend to have a lens on, if you will. So, I'm kind of like thinking to myself, okay, there's somebody else who looked at this, maybe 2 or 3 times.
Right.
So this may be altered a little bit. Or if it's an African-American creator of a show, that this is through their eyes. So it's like, okay, they're portraying us in a good way. I think it's more, for me, reality. And, when you see obnoxious behavior or, anything like that, I automatically think to myself, oh my goodness, this is how they want us to act.
Yep.
We got to get it together. Come on, draw back a little bit.
Absolutely.
So I definitely agree with that.
And some terms that they use with that, either when it's in film or television, is Black on Black film crime and Black on Black television. So that's just something to think about. I don't know if I'm going to stop watching it. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because I'm entertained. However, when I think myself, I know the difference because I'm a grown woman. So when I'm watching those things, I say, you know what, that don't make no sense. She shouldn't be acting like that. But I know that all Black women are not acting like that. But I also cringe at the fact that, non-Black people are watching this. And, they already have some type of fetish with our culture and how we act. So when they start to want to adopt some of the things that we do, they're adopting the wrong thing. The loud and gaudy, obnoxious behavior. So that part of it does make me cringe. But I'm really glad that we have other programs that offset that. Like Iisha said, and Dr. Kathy said, like, you know, our grown-ishes and Shonda Rhimes are making stories and creating stories that are not just Black stories.
Right.
So that's awesome.
And I think it's important for just, you know, all people, for us, and I know we're talking about African Americans, obviously, but I just think it's so important for all people to just, like, get to understand each other.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
I think if we understood,
we all just get along.
If we just understood one another, sat down and had these conversations that we're having with one another, that would help everything globally, I feel like.
Yeah, because a lot of non-Black people, they just don't know, and ignorance really can be detrimental.
You know, one of my students asked me the other day, if Trump is defeated in the next election, will things go back to normal? And I don't think things are ever going to go back to where it was. It wasn't perfect, but there's a monster that has been let out of the box, racism. It was dormant. It was never dead, but now it's up in front of our faces, and everywhere we go, that you are almost afraid to even look at a white person in some ways, the fear that they might snap back at you, and then I am...
Oh, Lord.
If only y'all could see Dr. Jackson.
So, ladies, do you have any events coming up? Dr. Jackson, I know that you are involved with a few events that you plugged earlier in the show, but if you can throw that out there, or any events that you'll be sitting on the panel or anything, let us know.
Okay. Now?
Yes, please.
Okay, the first one is on February the 22nd with our Black History Month activities here at Norfolk State, and we'll be looking at the 50th commemoration of the Kerner Commission report. You quoted some of that before. And we're looking at how it impacted Hampton Roads. Did it change anything in terms of the media's coverage of Norfolk and the surrounding areas, especially for African Americans? And so I'm looking for some people who've been around since '68, who saw about the riots taking place in other areas, Detroit, Newark, Miami, and also for any old-time people, well, old-timers, people who worked in the media at that time, African Americans. Did it impact how the newsroom changed? Because during the riots, that was the first time that a lot of African Americans got to work in mainstream media, because they needed them to send them into the ghetto and ask them what they were doing, because they were afraid to go into the ghetto. So, and that put a serious drain on the African American newspapers that up until that time were doing great jobs. It just drained the talent away from them.
Yeah. So what, you said February 22nd. Yes. What time?
1:30 to 3 p.m. It will be in the Student Center in room 138.
Love it. And, of course, we've been announcing Black History Month NSU activities all throughout the day. Okay, so you'll hear about that again. Iisha, anything coming up for you?
Well, I definitely want to say, if you're a media professional, whether it's PR, television, radio, newspaper, academia, Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals, we would love to have you. Our meetings are usually the last Thursday of every month, but if you shoot me an email, I can get you on our email list. We would love to have you. My email address is iscott@wvec.com. Also, with Black History Month, I'm doing a really I'm super excited about this story. Just talking about the National Museum of African American History and Culture in D.C. and how that museum is connected, or the things in that museum connects to Hampton Roads. So I'm airing that story at the end of the month, the last week of February. And then another part of that story is my grandparents' first reaction to the museum when we go in there. So the last week, we're doing all Black History Month shoots and stories. So it's super exciting. Make sure you tune in. It's going to be a good time.
And another event is in March. It'll be March the 22nd. It is the Red Sand Project. And what it is, it was created by a woman out of New York City, Molly Gotchman, and she will be here as our guest speaker. And the Red Sand Project is to look at human trafficking, slavery around the world, because a lot of people who make the clothes at H&M, they are virtually enslaved conditions. One of the professors today talked about how people who gather the shrimp are virtual slaves. And so the whole Red Sand Project is to note the suffering and to see you pour red sand into the cracks, to remember the people who have been lost to society, who've fallen through the cracks. And so we would like to invite the community out to come and see that. It will be on start at 9:30, March the 22nd.
And we'll put that on our Facebook page as that time nears, okay? So thank you so much for listening to Hampton Roads Voices. I want to thank our special guest experts on today, Dr. Kathy M. Jackson and Iisha Scott. Thank you guys so much. And don't forget, I need you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel, okay? It is up. It is running. It has all of your favorite episodes. I'm sure when you're in and out of your cars, you forgot a part, and you're like, you know what? I want to hear what she said or what he said. You can do that. Hampton Roads Voices on YouTube. Last week's episode is up and ready for you to hear the taboo of mental health in the Black community. Also, don't forget that we are having an event, Hampton Roads Live. Yes, instead of calling in, you can be in the audience and put your hand up and say, KHILO, I need that mic because I got something to say. And I'll surely will give it to you. We're talking about the war on drugs, February 23rd. Right here on campus. Go ahead and check it out on our Eventbrite. It's absolutely free, of course. We just need you to register. So go ahead on Eventbrite and look up Hampton Roads Voices Live. We should pop right on up. We will be so happy to meet you. Okay? All right. Well, I guess, don't forget we are rebroadcasting this on Sunday at noon. And we will have a brand new episode next week for you. Thank you for tuning in. It's Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB FM.